So, I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine you leave a raw pack of bacon sitting out on your counter, uncured, just sitting there.
Oh, I mean, that is a terrible idea.
Right, because the ambient bacteria is going to, eventually multiply and make you violently ill if you try to eat it.
Yeah, botulism is definitely not how you want to start your morning.
Exactly. But the crazy thing is, the exact chemical compound that butchers have used for centuries to save us from that fate, it's currently at the center of this massive, incredibly dense controversy.
It really is. I mean, it's this invisible chemical balancing act.
Yeah, and it links our breakfast plates, the water coming out of our taps, and our systemic risk for cancer, which is exactly the mission of today's deep dive.
It's essentially the ultimate double-edged sword of food science, you
Yeah.
know? Like, we solve this immediate acute threat of foodborne illness. But in doing so, we introduce this chronic, slow-moving threat that we're really only just now starting to fully understand on a microscopic level.
And I am honestly so relieved we're finally tackling this, because the sources we're looking at today detailed these really alarming but also super confusing differences between nitrates in our groundwater and nitrites in our cured meats.
Yeah, keeping those two straight is half the battle.
Exactly. So to navigate all of this, we're going to follow the journey of two university students from our sources, Kesser and Steen.
Right, they're in that nature and innovation class.
Yep, supervised by Professor Hendricks. And they recently sat in on this massive lecture in their university's great auditorium. They're basically trying to figure out how we can possibly secure a future for our food and water systems, without relying on all these synthetic chemicals.
Which is a pretty daunting task.
Mm.
Because nitrogen, in all its various chemical forms, is literally the engine of the modern world.
Without it, our agriculture just collapses.
Oh,
Like,
totally. We
huh?
starve. But the sheer volume we're using right now is just completely overwhelming the Earth's natural filtration systems.
Right, so Kesser and Steen's mission is essentially trying to find a biological loophole to save our food supply.
Exactly.
So let's start right where they did in that auditorium, the whole butcher's dilemma, because we have to look at the meat on our plates before we can look at the water in our glasses.
Makes sense.
When you go to the store, right, and you buy a package of deli meat or bacon, you expect it to look pink, like you expect it to look appetizing.
But real meat oxidizes and turns brown very quickly.
Exactly. So to stop that, butchers use a chemical called nitrate.
Right, nitrite with an I. That is NO2-.
And it's a highly effective preservative, right? Like it inhibits the growth of that botulism bacteria we were just talking about.
Yeah, and it also binds to the myoglobin in the meat to chemically lock in that fresh pink color long after the meat has been packaged.
Okay, so we're injecting a chemical to prevent acute poisoning. That sounds like a win.
On the surface, yeah.
But the sources point out this severe catch-22. Wait, so if we don't use it, we face an acute health risk from spoiled meat. But if we do use it, we risk stomach cancer from overconsumption.
That's the paradox, yeah.
I mean, it's like choosing whether to jump out of a moving car or stay in one that's heading for a cliff.
It does feel like that,
Mhm.
but you have to look at the actual mechanics of the chemistry here to really get it.
Okay, break it down for me.
So nitrite on its own, like if it's just sitting in a vacuum, it isn't the direct villain. It's not inherently a carcinogen.
Wait, really? I thought nitrate was the cancer-causing thing.
No, the danger requires a very specific catalyst. So when nitrite is present in meat, it sits right next to the meat's natural proteins, specifically these things called amino groups.
Okay, amino groups.
Right. And when you introduce high heat, like throwing 2 slices of bacon into a scorching hot frying pan, you forcefully push those nitrites and amino groups to react together.
Oh, wow. So the frying pan is like a chemistry lab.
Exactly. That intense heat forges entirely new compounds called nitrosamines.
Nitrosamines. And those are the actual hazard.
Yes. Many nitrosamines are highly genotoxic.
Okay, genotoxic meaning they actually damage our genetic code.
Yes.
But how? How does a byproduct of a fried breakfast food manage to alter human DNA?
Well, it happens through a process called DNA alkylation.
Alkylation.
Yeah. Essentially, when these nitrosamines enter your digestive tract, they get absorbed into your cells, and they're highly chemically reactive.
Okay.
They literally, physically attach a bulky chemical group directly to your DNA strands.
Just stick it right on there.
Exactly. So later on, when that cell tries to naturally divide and copy its DNA, it hits that bulky attachment and it stutters.
Like a skipping record.
Yeah, it makes a copying error.
Yeah.
And if that mutation happens in the wrong place in the genetic code, the cell begins to multiply uncontrollably.
Wow.
And that mutation is the literal spark for cancer.
That is a terrifyingly mechanical way to look at breakfast. I mean, my bacon is out here causing DNA copying errors.
Yeah, and the wild thing is this isn't even a new discovery.
Right. The sources note that the health risks from nitrosamines have been known since, the 1960s?
Yeah, back when researchers found wildly high concentrations of them in nitrate-preserved fish, stuff that was being used for animal feed.
So the science on the hazard has been settled for decades.
Completely settled. The debate we have now has entirely shifted to how we manage that hazard and how we communicate it to the public.
Which actually brings up a very prominent, somewhat politically charged critique in the research regarding public health messaging.
Right, the hospital beds argument.
Exactly. And just as a quick note to you listening, we aren't taking a side on this left/right political critique here. We are just impartially reporting the source's perspective on how this messaging is handled.
Right, we're just analyzing the text.
Yeah. But basically, there's an argument presented that the political messaging around cancer often focuses heavily on reactive solutions.
Like politicians standing up and boldly promising to fund more hospital beds for cancer patients.
Right. The critique suggests this is a very politically safe, almost heroic posture, whereas having a real conversation about systemic agricultural reform or banning certain food additives is politically dangerous because it alienates industry lobbyists.
It highlights a classic tension in public health.
Yeah.
Like funding a new cancer ward provides a tangible, highly visible political victory. Everyone claps.
Yep.
But banning a preservative or forcing farmers to change their fertilizer habits, that creates immediate economic friction, even if it keeps thousands of people out of those hospital beds 20 years down the line.
Right. It's prevention versus treatment. And looking at how different governments handle that friction is fascinating. Like the DTU Food Institute, that's the Technical University of Denmark, they've been aggressively updating their risk assessments on nitrosamines since around 2016.
Mostly because our analytical technology has improved so much, right?
Exactly. Because they can clearly see the genotoxic effects now, Denmark actually enforces a strict national limit for added nitrite in meat products. They cap it at 60 milligrams per kilogram.
And just for context, the overarching rules for the European Union allow for up to 150 milligrams per kilogram.
Wow. So Denmark is maintaining a threshold less than half the EU standard.
Yeah, specifically to throttle that chemical reaction in the frying pan. They are essentially trying to starve the nitrosamine reaction of its core ingredient.
That makes total sense. So the mechanics of nitrate are clear. Heat plus protein plus nitrite equals genotoxic nitrosamines.
Simple chemistry.
But Kesser and Steen's lecture with Professor Hendricks gets significantly more complicated from here. Because we have to introduce the other half of this chemical equation, nitrates.
Right, with an A, that is NO3-.
The chemical cousin.
And nitrate is incredibly abundant. It's the form of nitrogen that plants absorb most easily.
Yeah.
Which means it is heavily present in healthy leafy greens like spinach and lettuce.
Okay, spinach is good for you. We know this.
Right. But nitrate is also highly water-soluble, meaning it washes very easily into our drinking water.
And this is where the biology gets genuinely strange to me. So if I eat a bowl of spinach, or I drink a glass of nitrate-heavy tap water, I'm introducing NO3 into my body.
Yes.
But my body doesn't just leave it as NO3, does it?
No, it really doesn't. You have this vast microbiome living in your mouth and your digestive tract.
Right.
And when you consume nitrate, specific bacteria in your mouth immediately go to work metabolizing it. They actually strip away an oxygen atom,
Okay.
converting that harmless nitrate directly into nitrate, NO2.
Wait, hold on. So let me get this straight. My own saliva is manufacturing the exact same bacon preservative we just established as a precursor to cancer?
Yeah. It is a profound biological paradox.
That is wild.
Your mouth converts it to nitrite, and as it travels down into your stomach, it hits this biological fork in the road.
A Y fork?
Exactly. Let's call them path A and path B. So path A is the beneficial path. In the highly acidic environment of your stomach, that nitrite can be converted into nitric oxide.
Nitric oxide, what does that do?
It's a gas, and it's an absolutely vital signaling molecule in the human body. It triggers vasodilation. Basically, it tells your blood vessels to relax and expand.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it increases your blood flow and actively lowers your blood pressure.
Okay, path A sounds great. I want path A. But there's a path B, isn't there?
Path B is the trap. If the nitrite doesn't become nitric oxide, it reacts with the amines that are naturally present in your stomach.
Oh, no.
Yeah, to form those exact same DNA-damaging nitrosamines we just saw in the frying pan.
Inside the stomach. Okay, so this brings up a really bizarre detail Kesser and Steen found in their research. Because during a recent election campaign, there was a politician who actually argued that having agricultural nitrates seep into our drinking water is a public health benefit.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, they claimed it was good because it travels down path A and lowers everyone's blood pressure. Is there any truth to that?
No, that is a catastrophic misunderstanding of human biology.
I figure.
Yeah, the sources cite a heart doctor, a head of research at the Heart Association, who completely dismantles this argument.
Why, though? I mean, if nitrate turns into nitrite, and nitrate can turn into blood pressure-lowering nitric oxide, why isn't tap water a good delivery system?
Because the chemical reaction doesn't just naturally default to the healthy path. It requires biological chaperones.
Just chaperones.
Yeah, to push nitrite down path A and prevent it from going down path B, your body requires a high concentration of specific bioactive compounds. Like, specifically, it needs polyphenols and certain vitamins.
Like vitamin C.
Exactly.
And those compounds are acting as antioxidants.
Yes, an antioxidant's job is to donate electrons. So when nitrate is in the stomach, looking around for an amine to bind with to form a cancer-causing nitrosamine, the polyphenols step in.
They block it.
Right. They chemically neutralize the reactive compound before that dangerous binding can ever take place. They effectively shut down path B, forcing the nitrite to convert into healthy nitric oxide.
Oh, I see. So when you eat a bowl of spinach, the spinach isn't just giving you nitrate, it's bringing its own antidote.
Exactly.
It's packaging the nitrate with the exact polyphenols and vitamins required to process it safely.
The vegetable provides the complete biological toolkit,
Yeah.
but tap water from a contaminated well, it just contains isolated nitrate.
Right.
It has no polyphenols.
Mm-hmm.
It has no antioxidants.
So without those plant compounds acting as biological chaperones, the nitrate from drinking water just cascades down path B, turning straight into nitrosamines in our gut.
Exactly. And the epidemiological data supports this mechanism entirely. Like, without protective plant compounds, long-term exposure to nitrate in drinking water is statistically linked to an increased risk of colon cancer.
Wow.
Yeah, there is zero scientific basis to claim that agricultural runoff in our water table is secretly a heart medication. It is purely a chronic health hazard.
Which really echoes some previous public health crises we've seen regarding water contamination. I mean, we've talked on the show before about the blue children syndrome,
Oh, yeah. That was awful.
where extreme nitrate contamination in rural well water essentially blocked the oxygen-carrying capacity of infants' blood. We solved the acute threat of infants literally suffocating. But now we're realizing that lower sustained doses are quietly driving up cancer rates over time.
Right, which forces Kesser, Steen, and Professor Hendricks to ask the next logical question. How is so much nitrate getting into our tap water in the first place?
And to answer that, they had to leave the great auditorium and look at the actual source of the spill: modern agriculture.
Yeah, the sheer scale of modern farming relies completely on nitrogen. Whether a farmer is using organic compost or liquid manure from livestock or synthetic NPK fertilizer.
NPK, that stands for nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, right?
Yes, the goal is the same regardless of the source. Nitrogen is the foundational building block for plant amino acids and chlorophyll. It is literally what drives explosive high-yield crop growth.
But farming isn't a perfectly efficient system. Like, a farmer sprays liquid manure or spreads NPK salts over a massive field, but the root systems of the wheat or the corn simply cannot absorb all of it before it rains.
And that excess is the root of the crisis, especially in regions with sandy, porous soils. That surplus nitrogen is highly mobile in water.
So it just washes away.
Yeah, it washes straight through the topsoil, it leaches into drainage pipes, runs off into local streams, and eventually empties into coastal fjords.
Which ruins the local ecology, right? Triggers massive algae blooms that suffocate marine life.
Exactly. But the portion of that runoff that sinks straight down deep into the earth is what hits the groundwater.
But hold on a second, doesn't the Earth naturally filter this stuff? I mean, the sources mention a process called denitrification, where NO3 turns into harmless atmospheric nitrogen gas. Isn't the Earth just naturally cleaning up after us?
It is, but you're ignoring the verticality of the problem.
Verticality, what do you mean?
So denitrification is primarily an anaerobic process, meaning it only happens in environments without oxygen.
Okay.
That occurs deep, deep underground. where specific soil bacteria strip the oxygen off the nitrate just to survive. Because of that deep earth filtration, the drinking water we pump from our oldest, deepest subterranean aquifers is actually still quite safe.
For now.
Right, for now. The crisis is happening in the upper layers. The oxygenated groundwater closer to the surface doesn't have those anaerobic bacteria working in overdrive.
Ah, I see.
And it is completely overwhelmed by the sheer volume of agricultural runoff. Recent groundwater monitoring reports show that approximately 25% of this upper groundwater is currently failing to meet safety requirements.
25%.
Yeah, it's steadily climbing toward the maximum EU limit of 50 milligrams per liter.
That's terrifying. A 25% failure rate in the upper water table is basically a systemic collapse. So what solutions did Professor Hendricks present to Kesser and Steen? Because we obviously can't just ban nitrogen tomorrow and let global crop yields plummet.
No, we can't. So the immediate blunt force solution is strict regulation. Since the late 1980s, there have been various aquatic environment plans designed to put a hard ceiling on how much fertilizer a farmer can apply to specific crops based on soil type.
Just putting a cap on it?
Yeah, it's a brutal but effective equation.
Yeah.
If you forcefully reduce the nitrogen surplus on the surface, you reduce the nitrate leaching into the groundwater.
But that puts the economic burden entirely on the farmer's yield. Like, they're the ones taking the hit.
It does, which is why the long-term solutions require structural land reform.
Like what?
Like identifying highly vulnerable sandy soils and legally converting them back into protected nature reserves or forests where they aren't farmed at all.
Okay.
It also requires merging smaller waterworks into larger entities so they actually have the capital to drill new, much deeper wells. And crucially, setting up temporary water purification facilities to actively filter the groundwater.
Wait, why temporary?
Because of the time lag. Water moves incredibly slowly through deep soil. Even if every single farm stopped using nitrogen today completely, we would still have decades of historical runoff slowly sinking down through the earth toward our aquifers right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we have to filter the water just to survive the sins of the past 30 years.
Man, it paints an incredibly bleak picture. We are basically relying on billions of dollars in infrastructure, heavy government regulation, and a likely reduction in food production just to keep our tap water safe.
It sounds grim, I know.
Which is exactly why the final stage of Kesser and Steen's research project is so vital. They actually left the university entirely and went out into the fields looking for a way to maintain high crop yields without poisoning the water.
And they found it in the most unexpected place, a French fry farm.
I love this part. It sounds like a joke, but it's brilliant.
It's a phenomenal example of applied biological engineering, but without the synthetic chemicals.
So Kesser and Steen find this organic potato farmer. He's growing a very specific, highly demanding variety of potato that is contracted out to make French fries.
Right.
Now, usually, to get these potatoes to grow massive and flawless enough for industrial fast food, conventional farmers have to douse the fields in heavy synthetic NPK salts and endless pesticide sprays, right?
Yeah, potatoes are extremely heavy feeders. They rip nitrogen out of the soil aggressively.
But this farmer's field is completely organic. He isn't spraying a single drop of synthetic fertilizer. He isn't spreading liquid manure. And yet, he is producing flawless, commercial-grade fry potatoes that meet exact industry specifications.
It's pretty amazing.
So how is he generating the nitrogen required for that kind of explosive growth?
He's using a very ancient, highly elegant biological tool called a pre-crop. So before he ever puts a potato in the ground, he plants the entire field with clover.
Just standard clover, like you see in a yard.
Standard clover. But its biological function is anything but standard. Clover is a legume. And legumes have an incredible evolutionary adaptation. They essentially act like an atmospheric vacuum.
Okay, wait, explain that.
So the air we breathe is roughly 78% nitrogen gas.
Right.
But most plants can't use it in that gaseous form, they just can't absorb it. Clover, however, forms a symbiotic relationship with specific bacteria in its roots, called rhizobia.
Rhizobia, so the bacteria and the plant are working together.
Exactly. The clover provides sugars to the bacteria to keep them alive. And in exchange, the rhizobia bacteria pull nitrogen gas directly out of the air, break the chemical bonds, and fix it into a solid, usable form down in the root nodules.
That is insane. So the clover is literally sucking the raw material out of the sky and injecting it directly into the topsoil?
It is an entirely self-contained fertilizer factory. So when the farmer's ready, he just plows the clover into the earth. As the plant matter breaks down, it releases all that organically fixed nitrogen directly into the soil. And then he plants his potatoes.
The elegance of that is staggering. I mean, so the clover is basically a biological free solar panel for fertilizer.
Yeah, you could look at it that way.
The farmer uses the clover to organically load the soil. He buys zero chemical salts. He produces the flawless, super quality potatoes that the fast food industry demands.
Yep.
And because the nitrogen is bound up in organic plant matter rather than water-soluble chemical salts, it doesn't instantly wash away in the rain.
Exactly. Which
That's
completely protects the local groundwater from nitrate runoff,
And most importantly for Kesser and Steen, we still get our French fries.
which is the real victory here.
Honestly, yeah.
Mm.
But it proves that industrial-scale agriculture doesn't have to be locked in this war of attrition with the local ecology.
No, it doesn't. By utilizing the biological synergy of rhizobia bacteria and clover, the farmer achieves the same yield as a conventional farm, but operates within a closed-loop system that the earth can actually manage.
It's the exact kind of brilliant, practical environmentalism Kesser and Steen were searching for. It shows that securing our future food supply doesn't mean we have to stop producing. We just have to be vastly smarter about the biological mechanics we deploy.
We have to stop relying on brute force chemistry and start relying on the sophisticated biological systems that evolved millions of years before we did.
Man, that is perfectly said. So what does this all mean for you listening right now? The next time you walk into your kitchen and pour yourself a glass of cold tap water, or, you smell the aroma of bacon hitting a hot frying pan, realize that you are participating in a vast, invisible chemical ecosystem.
Everything is connected.
It really is. The exact same chemical element, nitrogen, can be the foundation of a healthy crop, a vital blood pressure medication, or a potent DNA-mutating carcinogen.
It's all about context.
Right, the context of how that chemical arrives, whether it is chaperoned by the protective polyphenols of a fresh spinach leaf, or arrives isolated and reactive from the runoff of a factory farm, it changes absolutely everything about how it interacts with your human biology.
And if we look at the larger agricultural picture, if a simple organic pre-crop like clover can act as an atmospheric vacuum, naturally pulling all the nitrogen we could ever need directly from the sky to grow high-demand crops like French fried potatoes without a single drop of synthetic fertilizer.
Yeah.
It raises a pretty profound question about our modern hubris. Like, what other brilliant, elegant, ancient agricultural mechanics have we completely abandoned in our rush to use synthetic brute force chemicals?
Oh, wow, that is a great question. Could looking backward and closely studying the way the Earth naturally balances and fertilizes itself actually be the ultimate key to innovating the future of our food system?
I think it just might be.
It is definitely something to chew on the next time you're deciding what to have for breakfast. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the water in your glass, keep questioning the food on your plate, and keep questioning the world around you.